you ready?
We're here at a very wet and windy Anglesey in North Wales for the penultimate round of the Performance Direct Radical Clubman's Cup. Anglesey circuit is notorious for its extreme weather, and here today the driving rain and high winds have caused qualifying to be quite a challenge for some of the drivers.
Well, after the adventures of qualifying onto pole position, we had Darren Andy. Alongside the front row of the grid was Mark Abbott. And Abbott, in all sorts of problems, he's waving his arm. He's being pushed from the grid. So the car's waiting as Abbott is moved away.
There's been a bit of drama on the grid before the start of race one. Mark Abbott's car wouldn't actually start, so he had to be pushed away by the marshals. However, now got it working, so he's going to have to start again, but this time from the back of the grid.
Well, we're ready for the off once more. On in-car Timothy Lyons, red lights go on. Executive decision there from Mark Abbott to reclaim that front row position, and he gets away very well. Pulses Darren Alley, a terrible start. He's really bogged down. He's recovering now. He's lost 10 or so positions as they surge towards the first turn. It's twisty and turny Anglesey circuit. Timothy Lyons, though, well up as he's just there behind Mark Boot in the black Pro Sport car. The Pro Sport's really enjoying the slightly slippery conditions. So already Mark Boot well up as Timothy Lyons sets off in hot pursuit. Also a good start there from the blue car of Steve Burgess. He's got Tony Wells on his tail as well as they stream through on this first lap of what is going to be a very busy race. Darren Anley looking to make ground, which he's been to do with some aplomb. In fact, he's already up onto the tail of Timothy Lyons as he crests the hill, goes through the chicane and on towards Peel, which is one of the favoured overtaking spots here on the Anglesey circuit, as Tony Wells tries to find his way past Steve Burgess, and Burgess leaves him a gap, and Tony Wells is going to take that surely. He moves to the inside and through he goes. We flip on board with Steve Burgess, who is demoted position as Tony Wells gains ground up through the field, and Wells just gains another position as well as he moves past Paul Marsham through into the start at lap 2. So ahead of the field, but it's Mark Abbott who's leading it at the moment from James Abbott, and then Tony Wells there in third. There's a quick spin from Graham Ridgway. We see the right direction, we see the cars behind, we see the right direction again. Back into the race goes Graham Ridgway. That's Tony Wells tries to chase down the leaders. Lucia has some news from the pit lane.
Well, as it happens, Mark Abbott actually ended up going to the front of the grid, back to his original position. So he's actually just been given a drive-through penalty. So
the inimitable David Scott counting down the seconds before Mark Abbott go back into the race. He goes out now, so Abbott well down the order. A lot of chasing to do. As we were saying earlier on, these slippery conditions do support the nimble handling of the Pro Sports. Let's see how far he can move up through the field. In car with Gary Baxter, who is firmly ensconced in a rather frantic midfield battle. You can see how slippery it is. The car's really twitching under acceleration as they look to get the power down. That's going to be very close, and Gary goes around, avoiding action from the car immediately behind as well, but no harm done there. Gary finds first gear, straight back into the race as Tony Wells has still got Steve Burgess very close company. This is good performance here from Steve as he is settled into the slipstream behind Wells. But what's that? That is a severe vibration there for Steve Burgess. You can see the camera going all shaky, and Steve, when he's backed off, you obviously think it's probably just the hand goes in the air. That's a real shame there, because Steve was going superbly, and I wonder what that vibration is. It's not the sort of sound that you want to be hearing on the racing car. We'll find out in due course as James Abbott now leads the race with Tony Wells in second. Darren Anley there is into third position, with then the touring Steve Burgess next up, although I suspect that he'll be heading directly to the pit lane as Timothy Lyons continues this enthralling battle. We're currently fighting it out for the positions just towards the bottom end of the top 6, and this is again one of Timothy's strongest showings of the season. Clearly enjoying the Anglesey circuit. So we've got a spin up ahead. It's Mark Boot this time, who has just lost the rear of the car. He is going to be back in the fray in no time at all. So it's now Andy Cummings who is next up in Timothy Lyons' sights as the race leader, James Abbott, continues on what is proving to be a very successful 2011 season. He went superbly at Donington Park, which was the last meeting for the Performance Direct Radical Clubman's Cup, and he's looking to do the same here at Anglesey as Mark Abbott. Post unscheduled pit stop is looking to make progress, but not if he goes like that. He just touches the brake, and again on the damp track the car locks up. Spin turn there from Mark. He's going to rejoin, fortunately for him, to the tune of 2 lost places. He gets back on track. The race leader comes through to complete another lap, but look at this for second and third place, because Darren Anley is right up onto the tail of Tony Wells. So we're right in car with Darren. Now let's see what he can do about closing in emphatically on Tony, maybe challenging for that runners-up position. You can see just how heavily Darren's on the brakes, then balancing the throttle as well to get on the power nice and early out of the corner. And it's a good exit, but he's maybe taking a bit too much curb. But again, he closes on to Tony Wells as Mark Abbott closes in on Andy Cummings. Again, Mark looking for a quick exit here. It's Paul Marsham leading that group, then Andy Cummings, then it's Mark Abbott. Great shot here. You can really enjoy the race from Mark's perspective as he looks to make the move on the inside here of Andy Cummings in towards turn 1. Is there going to be space there for the pair of them? I think he's gone through. Yes, he has. Makes the move stick. So good move there from Mark Abbott. He's now was in pursuit of Paul Marsham. So unfortunately, Mark Abbott, this has been a race of adventures as he is going to recover from the grass and all the ground that we just saw him make up. He's now got to do once more as we go back to this excellent battle for second and third. Darren Anley there in third, Tony Wells up in second, and James Abbott, in fact, to lead the race, isn't too far ahead of him either. So as we move towards the closing stages here, this could still go any one of 3 ways, particularly given these conditions, but the cheering in the pit wall suggests it's last corner time. The checker flag goes out and James Abbott takes the win for Tony Wells in second and Darren Anley in third, with, despite some adventures, Mark Abbott coming through to claim the Pro Sport class, with Jennifer Ridgway taking Club Sport honours.
James, congratulations, fantastic race again, although qualifying for you for this one wasn't so good, was it?
No, there was sort of a bit of a tie between we had some used wets that we eventually put on, or some new ones, and it was drying. I think a faster lap was on the newer tyres, but we went for the used ones and saved them for the race, and it seemed to pay off.
And talk me through this race. How did you get from P4 up to finishing first?
Well, mainly on the start, really. Darren didn't get a very good start, and then Mark Abbott had a flyer, so I had a good gauge on where the grip was, and they pulled off and left me to it, really.
And you're obviously leading the Clubman's Cup Championship at the moment. I think it's 216 points before this race, is that right?
Yes.
And do you think there's anything that could stop you in your tracks there?
Well, I don't know. You never get too confident, or it's going to come back and bite you. But fingers crossed, we're going well.
Well, podium time at the end of the first race of the weekend with race winner James Abbott, Pro Sport class winner Mark Abbott, and Jennifer Ridgway celebrating Club Sport honours. It was the Super Sport class and the race that was won overall by James Abbott as he chases Mark Abbott across the paddock.
So Mark, having qualified second, it was a bit of a complex race there for you, wasn't it? Can you talk us through it?
It was a little bit. Just as I was coming to the grid, the car just died. So we managed to get it restarted. I'm a little bit annoyed actually, because apparently I've got to go and see the clerk of the course. No clear instruction as to what I was to do. So I just took my grid position, got on with it, took the black flag, that's absolutely fine if those are the rules, and restarted from the back, and was enjoying myself coming through the field, really was. I don't know what I got up to, but once the grip had gone on the car, that was it. So I had 10 laps to make up for it. I think I've got the class win, that's fine.
And Anglesey's quite a tricky track, isn't it? There's lots of undulations, obviously the weather's not great today as well. How did that affect your racing today?
It wasn't great. I didn't get much testing yesterday, which is unfortunate because the car could do with a little bit more setting up. It's got a lot of understeer, but hopefully second race, go back out there, know it a little bit better, and really, go a bit faster.
So Tony, you qualified 5th and made it all the way up to 2nd place. Talk us through your race.
Yes, well, I didn't do a very good job in qualifying. I had this idea that slicks would be a good idea, so and they weren't. So obviously I didn't make the most of it. So fifth wasn't great. And then
What made you think that here at Anglesey?
I went out, did one flying lap, and I was P1 at the time, and then I thought, right, I'll change to slicks, and there was just no grip. So, but that was the qualifying. Fifth was okay. Darren obviously stalled off the line, so I got a bit boxed at the beginning, and then managed to get past the guys in front. So I think at the end of the first lap I was up to third, and then I guess Mark must have got a penalty or something because he just disappeared. But I didn't understand what was going on. Then there was just me and James.
Darren, you had a fantastic qualifying in pole for the start of race 1. What went wrong?
I stalled it, unfortunately. It's second time on pole to stall it, and I did it again. So gutted really. It was a great qualifying session. I had a good time yesterday with the testing. I was seeing it be pretty quick, and then quali was good, and stalled it. So I think I went back to about 12th or something like that, I think, and then had a storm up back from there, but I just couldn't get the balance of the car. We changed on to new wets for the race because I thought it was wetter out there than it was this morning, and it wasn't, and the balance of the car wasn't as good as it was this morning, so struggled to get past the guys. So
what are you going to change for race 2 in terms of the setup?
Don't know, it depends really. I mean, if it doesn't rain again, I think it might be a dry line, so we'll go back to a full dry setup, and if it stays as it is, then I think I'll just go back onto the old wets I had this morning.
So Steve, you qualified third for race 1, and you had quite an interesting little battle with Tony Wells for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Off the start, Darren stalled in front of me, so I was quite slow getting away. And then Tony got by me into the first couple of bends. But then after that, I seemed to be reeling him back in. And I thought I had a good chance of getting past him until I got a massive vibration coming from the car. So I thought it's safer to come in and risk it, breaking down on circuit. Now we got back to the pits and checked out, just found it was just a panel that had come loose and it was just flapping by my head. But at the time, it sounded quite bad. So back out for the next race.
Almost all of the radicals have headed down to the assembly area now in preparation for race 2. As you can see, the weather conditions are an awful lot better. It's sunny, still a bit windy, but the track is now dry. So let's see how that's going to affect the drivers' strategies for race 2. How are you finding these dry, sunnier conditions for you?
I think the whole day's been a little bit stressful. We're very, very pleased it's dry, and fingers crossed it's going to stay that way. Quali, first race, wet, and obviously we, just hope for some grip and know where we are.
Well, it's a bit of a surprise. I thought we'd be on the wet weather tyres. The weather's been so changeable today, but here we are now on the slick tyres. So hoping to get a good start. Going for the win now with the dry, wet conditions.
And do you prefer racing in the dry conditions? Do you think this is going to help you?
To be honest, I'm probably better in the wet. but it is what it is. So we'll do our best.
I actually like the wet, as you saw earlier on. I mean, yes, a 6 isn't as fast as a 3 in the wet. We've still got to go for it, but I'm fine. I've always liked it here. I won last time here a couple of years ago, so all good. Just enjoy it now.
And you've got your Pro Sport here up in the top 3. Do you think you'll be able to keep it up there amongst all the other super sports?
Yeah, no problem.
James, you're 4th on the grid for the start of race 2, and do you think you'll be able to get past Mark Abbott's Pro Sport?
I don't know, he does start very quick. The Pro Sport tends to fade towards the end where the SR3 keeps going, so it all depends on what's happening. I'm looking to...
Okay, well, lots of luck. Thanks, James. So we've got Darren Anglesey there in pole position for race 2, followed by Mark Abbott in the Pro Sport, which remember is one of the slower cars. Let's see if he can keep that up with the rest of the Super Sports, and behind them it's followed by Steve Burgess. Almost time for race 2 to begin, so let's see how they get on.
Well, let's see if Darren Anglesey can make a getaway this time round. Red lights are on. We're in car with Darren. Away we go, sort of. Well, he did better than last time, but he's still been swamped as they head towards turn 1. Everybody else away cleanly. And Darren Anglesey's lost 3 or 4 positions. He's just in behind the fast-starting Steve Burgess. So lead it's Mark Abbott. In second place, it's James Abbott. Third was Steve Burgess. Now Darren Anglesey has gone back up into third position. So he gains 1 place, but he's lost 2 from that pole. As he now sets off in pursuit of James Abbott in second. And we're going to go down another place because Mark Boot making progress again in one of the Pro Sports. As we ride with Darren Anglesey, fastest part of the Anglesey circuit as they climb up the hill, and Anglesey's going to go for it. Brilliant move, he can make it stick on the inside of James Abbott. Through he goes, all arms and elbows, but he's made the move stick. That's super driving there from Darren Anglesey to go up in second position, but look at what it's doing ahead of the field though, because Mark Abbott's able to drive away as Tony Wells in the midfield is also getting himself fairly firmly embroiled in that scrap. James Abbott possibly ran a bit wide there. He would appear to be recovering, as well Steve Burgess very much in the mix. Just glued really to the rear wing behind James Abbott. So there is the lead ahead of the field from Mark Abbott. It's Darren Anley, there's Mark Boot who's next up, and then James Abbott, who, as we thought, did lose a couple of places when he got demoted from second. And then we've still got Steve Burgess and Tony Wells in this excellent scrap that's shaping up ahead of the field. Then we've got a gap back to the next battle being headed up by Timothy Lyons and Andy Cummings in very close attention as the rest of the pack file through. Great racing this from Performance Direct Radical Clubman's Cup. So good to see the sunshine out on what has been a weekend of very changeable weather here at Anglesey. So the field's streaming through to end the first lap of the race as the sunshine beats down on the Radicals for the first time this weekend, and Steve Burgess gets on the power nice and early en route towards Peel. He is anxiously trying to find his way past James Abbott, and James Abbott likewise wants to make the move on Mark Boot, because Abbott, of course, in one of the Supersport cars, a little bit more pace than the Pro Sport car of Mark Boot, but it's one thing to be slightly quicker, it's quite another to find your way through. Every time that Abbott tries to pick his way past, then it means that Steve Burgess can do just that to James Abbott, take advantage of a slow exit from the previous corner. Around the outside he goes, good run down the Tom Price straight, and Steve Burgess gains the place on James Abbott, albeit for about 150 metres, because Abbott immediately retaliates and reclaims that position, and then sets off once more in renewed pursuit of Mark Boot. Really is one of the best races of the season we've seen here in the Radical Clubman's Cup. Excellent scraps throughout the field, as going through there is Jan McLeod in the number 14 car. So we ride in car with Graham Ridgway, has a slight moment at the hairpin. No harm done there, he's just going to kick it back into gear as we go to the head of the field, and Mark Abbott has been reeled in here by Darren Anley, so they're fighting it out now for the lead of the race. And they get on the power nice and early, try and make that move and really put the pressure onto Mark Abbott. He's got to be careful, there's still some damp patches here on the circuit, so he can't push too hard down the Tom Price straight on towards the hairpin. And Abbott not leaving a car's width to the inside, although Anley thinks about looking for the move, and he's closing very tight to the inside of the hairpin. Gets on the power nice and early, but Mark Abbott's got that one covered, so they streak down towards the final corner of the lap, and that will be another lap reeled off, and Anley not close enough to make a manoeuvre into the final corner this time around. So the lap is completed as we go to this super midfield scrap. Just look at them going. John McLeod very much in the mix, as is Gary Baxter as well, and also Simon Garmston, who we heard from a little bit earlier on, having a very entertaining race. Steve Burgess on the tail of James Abbott, and Abbott still trying to make that move on Mark Boot. Mark Boot, for the moment though, is doing everything he needs to keep James Abbott at bay, though Abbott looks to the inside of Boot, and Boot though just taking a swooping line. He's really making this very difficult for James Abbott, as is his want, of course, and Steve Burgess has got the ideal position here, because he doesn't have to defend from anybody, he can just attack James Abbott, which is exactly what he's doing, as Abbott's got to attack and defend. Back to the leaders, and Darren Anley looking once more to challenge Mark Abbott, but Abbott wise to that one at the hairpin, so the leading duo are certainly not pulling away here for the battle from third position. Mark Boot, James Abbott and Steve Burgess still very much in the mix, and possibly just beginning to close in on the leaders as well. So we've got the 5 leading cars all coming together, and Tony Wells in 6th, not too far adrift either, and a race winner already this year. As we've got a move possibly here, John McLeod looking to the inside, Gary Ramsdale, who locks up, and is McLeod going to go through the number 14 car? Yes, he does. So Ramsdale demoted, and John McLeod sets off in pursuit now of Simon Garmston, number 13 car, as Andy Cummings also looks to make the move on Ramsdale. Steve Burgess still on the tail of James Abbott, and still they both try to find their way past Mark Boot, who has now latched himself really into the slipstream here behind Darren Anley, who in turn is trying to pass Mark Abbott. So the leading 5 cars as close as you like, and the dice are getting very frantic, too frantic for Mark Boot. Around he goes, just on the power fractionally early, and that could give Steve Burgess the opening as well on James Abbott, but James just closing the door in time. So we've still got in the lead the race Mark Abbott from Darren Anley. Darren again putting the pressure on, a slight lock up there from Mark Abbott. Steve Burgess launches up the inside of James Abbott into the hairpin. Are we going to see James reappearing on the right hand side of the screen? Yes, we are. Because Steve Burgess braked very, very late then indeed. He was halfway to Bangor before that car got turned into the hairpin, as Gary Ramsdale is looking to retaliate here in his battle with John McLeod. So the pair of them having a great ding-dong tussle. It's John's turn to go through on last occasion. Graham Ridgway also looking to recover from his early spin. He's putting the pressure on Doug Carter there. The number 50 car is Gary Baxter. Watch in car with him. Again, has a very fine view of all the thing going on ahead of him. He's now taking his turn to challenge Doug Carter as they come through to complete the lap. We'll do a replay here. Darren Anley making a move on Mark Abbott or not, and Anley losing it and going across the grass. He gathers up just in time. Good recovery, but you can see there he's already lost 3 places to that fight for second. So Darren Anley slipping down the order as Graham Ridgway continues to embroil himself in this battle with Gary Ramsdale and John McLeod. Ridgway recovering from his earliest 3 cars, cresting the hill. Great shot, and Ridgway looking for the move possibly. Again, launching up the inside into the hairpin. He's got that car stopped just in time, and he might get 2 for the price of 1 here, because John McLeod runs a little bit wide on the exit, and just through he goes. So the place gained for Graham Ridgway as Steve Burgess is looking to make the move here on Mark Abbott, who's just been debated by James Abbott. So James Abbott goes in to lead the race, and Steve Burgess follows him through. And so Abbott just misplaced on the track, Mark Abbott that is, as James Abbott went through, and Steve Burgess needed no second invitation to follow in hot pursuit. So it's now Steve Burgess and James Abbott lead the race. What could Steve Burgess do after that disappointment, of course, retiring from race 1 with the Kathleen bodywork? He'd love to make amends in race 2 and claim the victory, but we're very much into the closing stage of the race here. So Steve Burgess is going to go for the move. It's going to have to be something fairly dramatic and keep James Abbott unawares. And James Abbott has had a hugely successful 2011 season, and therefore that's going to be easier said than done. But that said, launching up the inside again is Steve Burgess, and this time he pushes Abbott out wide. It's going to be a drag race to the final corner here. Who's going to have it? As in 3rd place as well, you've got Tony Wells, who's about to make the move on Mark Abbott. So they exit the final corner, and it is going to be James Abbott who does the double here at Anglesey. So it's Abbott who wins it. Burgess 2nd, Tony Wells in 3rd, Mark Abbott in 4th, and Darren Anley rounding out the top 5 as the class winners celebrate on the podium.
James, here we are again on the podium, class winner and overall winner of the race. Congratulations.
Yeah, you'll be getting used to me soon.
And you weren't at the front the whole time though, were you? You had to sort of fight a bit to get up there.
Yeah, it was a bit of a scrappy first lap. I missed my brakes into the chicane at the top, and Darren got on the inside of me. A load more followed, so I had to sort of fight my way through them. Luckily a few fell off along the way. So
good stuff. And who was your main competitor there? You were sort of scrapping a bit with Steve, weren't you?
Yeah, Steve kept making lunges when I made a pass, lost time, he made a lunge, so it was I think he had me a couple of times, but managed to get him back again.
Mark, class winner again, but you were holding on to the lead of the race for quite some time there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was disappointed not to win that, really. But I can't hold them. Got a nice start and everything else, got a nice gap, everything's comfortable. But 2/3 of the way in, to keep one of PR6 going fast, it's sliding everywhere, and once the tyres start getting warm, just go backwards. You've got to let them go. So, yeah, class win, it's fine. I think that's looking comfortable for the Pro Sport Championship, but as after the main one, and James has done it now, so good on him. Brilliant effort. But thought to do better than that. It's the way it is.
So congratulations, Jennifer, on the podium again, class winner again. Well done.
Yeah, it's great. Much better time out there now. It's dry. Much prefer that. Know much better where the car's limits are and what I can do and how I can change things to make them a bit better. And the track looked a little bit damp in places, but the grip was great and tyres heated up really quickly. So great race.
So James, congratulations, you are now the Clubman's Cup champion 2011.
Wow, that's a bit of a title.
And you don't even have to go to Snetterton if you don't want to.
No, you can just sit at home and take it easy.
And chill out. How are you feeling, Phil? Pleased?
Yeah, fantastic. He's driven really well all year, and he's had these ups and downs with different setups, but it might be seen that he's the boss's son or whatever, but he makes all his own calls on setup. How he's going to set the roll bars, the dampers, is all from his own testing, and he prepares the cars himself in the workshop, and has to do it the hard way.
At Snetterton, does that mean that you're just going to sort of cruise around at the back of the pack?
It's a race, isn't it? You got to win. There's no point going if you're not going to, see to do the best you can, and I know what the best I can do is
Well, that's it for this weekend's racing here at Anglesey for Radical's first outing to the circuit. We hope you've enjoyed it. We've seen everything from rain, wind, all the way through to sun, all the seasons here in one day. But it's made for some really exciting racing, and we hope that you've enjoyed it and that you can join us for the grand finale at Snetterton. We'll see you there.
Anglesey was good. I mean, obviously the weather's a bit hit and miss, isn't it? I've never seen something change so quickly.
It's a good circuit. Quite enjoyed the weekend.
I think it's a fantastic place. Takes a bit of getting to know.
Sideways rain.
Well, it's pretty wet, but it's a great circuit, I must say.